Today, I'm here to walk you through the topic, understanding the key characteristics of China's compliance pathway for overseas IVD companies. Next, I will break this down into 3 sections to discuss the key characteristics from different perspectives. Section 1 is from the perspective of marketing opportunities, and the second one is from regulations. And the last one is from the strategies. With that said, let's turn to the first section. As everyone knows, the industry is currently facing the policy shifts, including volume-based procurement and payment reform. However, the population aging, epidemiological transition, and the increasing clinical adoption of innovative technologies still contribute to driving growth in IVD market capacity. Here, as you can see, there are 2 charts from authoritative sources. The data shows that the China's IVD market had reached approximately $20 billion by the end of 2025. And a variety of technologies are available. And the best forecasts from multiple industry organizations, China's market will maintain rapid expansion over the next 5 years. And based on the clinical demand and policy orientation analysis, the following 3 areas, molecular diagnostics, POCT, and AI plus smart lab, they show a high growth potential, and among them, the next generation sequencing-based early cancer screening and minimal residual disease monitoring, POCT, and AI-assisted diagnostics are all hot areas. So to sum up the opportunities, China is not a market you can ignore. Against this backdrop, developing a deep understanding of the market pathways for governing registration, submission, and clinical trials is very necessary. So let's move on to the section 2. And before we dive into this section, let me quickly lay out 2 important definitions: medical device and in vitro diagnostic reagent, which differ from overseas definitions. As you can see, the IVD regions are included in the MD, and only the IVD reagents are emphasized and managed separately. It means that the IVD instrument should follow the MD pathway, while the IVD reagents follow the IVD pathway. Under this background, you should apply for a MD registration for an IVD instrument. With this definition in mind, let's get to the section. Here, I show a registration roadmap to walk you through the entire process of getting a market approval, especially for IVD reagents. This process starts with regulations and ends with approval. And simply put, the first step, you need to classify your product as overseas class 1 and 2 and class 3. And the class 1 products need to undergo the filing procedure, and the other classes need to undergo the registration procedures. And please note that here, the overseas companies need to designate a China agent to perform these procedures. And today, we focus on the registration procedure. So here, you should submit an application file and to the Medical Device Administration Department. And here, the quality management system file and the inspection report should be included in that application file. And importantly, the inspection report should be issued by a qualified medical device inspection institution in China. Generally, if you have got an authoritative QMS certification, you can you can get an exemption from the QMS review. So after the application accepted, the technical review institution will conduct a technical review, and if necessary, an on-site QMS review will be conducted. And under the background, you have got a authoritative QMS certification. The on-site QMS review will not be required. And back the point, if you have passed all the review, the medical products administration department will be in charge of approval. And this is a registration roadmap. So let's refocus on the key characteristics of regulations. Multiple special registration procedures and guidelines. The first part, there are 3 types of special review procedures: innovative medical device, priority approval, and emergency use. And once the prerequisites for a particular review type are satisfied, this will bring many benefits, such as higher review priority, efficient review, and more frequent feedback from NMPA. And the second one, multiple guidelines. Being aware of mandatory standards, recommended standards, and product guidance is very important. Especially the product guidance should be carefully checked because the NMPA usually establishes guidance for highly concerned products and states very specific and unique requirements for Chinese population. It means that these requirements are mandatory unless you have an acceptable justification. And today, I can't dive into every detail here, so I'm attaching the screenshot of guidance library and 2 guidelines name for reference. And in addition, as examples, the specialized requirements of labeling are highlighted for a closer look. So the first part is instructions for use and technical specifications. The point 1, the instructions for use must comply with the guidelines and the relevant laws, rules, and mandatory standards. Point 2, submit product technical specifications, which should be prepared according to the relevant requirements, such as industry standards. And here, I'm attaching a cover letter of it as an example. And normally, in that industry standard, a minimum threshold will be set, like positive and negative coincidence rate, repeatability, accuracy, and so on. And for the second part is nomenclature. The point 1 is a Chinese product name that complies with the regulations must also be provided. And the name of IVD reagents generally consists of 3 parts. And in short, the naming rules of the IVD reagents should be followed. And for the point 2, for medical device marketing applications in China, the names of the registration applicant, registrant, and the filing entity should be in Chinese. Here, the principles of Chinese usage should be followed as well. Now, apart from the registration pathway, I'm pretty sure that the clinical requirements are what everyone's watching closely. Same as before, let's start with a roadmap. First of all, the clinical evaluation of IVD reagents is required by NMPA. And it is worth noting that there are 3 things you need to consider. The first one, you can see from the left. The first one is exemption from clinical trial. If the product is included in the catalog, analyze and evaluate the clinical literature and the data of the similar products, and then document your clinical evaluation file. And the second one is to cite existing clinical literature and clinical data. Here you can see the medium pathway. Here, it is important for IVD reagents in most cases, whether exemption from clinical trial or utilizing existing clinical data, a clinical evaluation study should be conducted in China or overseas. So the next important thing is conducting a clinical trial in China or outside China. If conducted in China, you should follow the relevant regulations, such as NMPA GCP for medical devices and technical guidelines for clinical trials of IVD reagents. And if the clinical trial is conducted outside China, you should ensure that the involved clinical trial institutions comply with the GCP, and there is no significant difference with China's GCP provision. Correspondingly, for the right pathway, as you can see, you need to assess of differences between China and overseas and consider, are there any factors that have a clinically significant impact on the trial data? Here, either way, an analysis report and original overseas clinical trials data are mandatory for clinical evaluation file. And that's all the clinical roadmap. And what's even more important to note is, if overseas companies want to conduct clinical trials in China, you need to comply with the requirements and the regulations of HGRM, Human Genetic Resource Management. Here, I'd like to walk you through some key points. The point one, core change from approval to filing system. Actually, this is good news to overseas companies. According to the latest regulations, such clinical trials for marketing authorization no longer require complex approval. And instead, filing system is sufficient. This means that we only need to complete the filing through the online platform. Here, I also attaching the screenshot of the online platform for reference. Here, for the point two, as you can see, some key conditions that must be met. First of all, the trial must be for marketing in China. And secondly, all samples and operations must be closed loop domestically and cannot be exported. And here, point three, we list some definitions and key concepts you need to know. The first one, joint filing entities. The filing application must be jointly submitted by the Chinese cooperating entity and the foreign sponsor. The second one, scope of genetic resource materials, refers to biological materials such as organs, tissues, cells. And the next, spatial exemption. The samples such as cell-free body fluids, swabs, usually do not require human genetic resource filing. Okay, on the previous slide, we briefly covered the basic rules of HGRM. So now let's look at the specific filing process. Full process closed loop management, which is initiated from confirming the partner through ethical review, material preparation, online submission to complete filing, initiate the trial with strict closure, and finally submit a post-trial report to form a complete compliance loop. During this process, Three key points should be followed. Point 1, informed consent compliance. Written informed consent from subjects must be obtained. And point 2, data non-export. Control rights belong to the Chinese party, and the data management must strictly follow the relevant regulations. And point 3, it is strictly prohibited for foreign parties to collect or preserve samples on their own. It is strictly prohibited to export any human genetic resource samples out of the country. Also, there are many more details to keep in mind throughout the entire filing process. Today, we won't go into all of them, but to give you more useful information, I've also classified two common myths. Myth 1, all trials involving human samples require approval. Here, as we discussed before, for IVD clinical trials, for marketing authorization, only the filing process should be met. And myth 2, is a collection permit required for samples exceeding 3,000 cases. Here it is an old point. So now I would like to update it. So under the background of marketing authorization for IVDs, a separate human genetic resource collection permit is not required. And it can be processed according to the filing procedure. So in section 2, we focused on the key characteristics of market pathway, which covered definitions, roadmaps, multiple spatial procedures you can choose, and guidelines that need to be checked and followed. And HGRM requires are emphasized too. So now the last section. Well, we will broaden our perspective and approach the topic from a more macro standpoint. Here, 5 different strategies are recommended to help you adapt to the Chinese market. So for the first one, product strategy. Here, play to your strengths. Focus on high-end products with strong technology barriers. It will be a core competitive advantage for overseas companies. And the second one, production strategy. At present, the policy incentives are provided for locally manufactured products. So it is a good choice. Either you establish local manufacturing facilities in China or partner with reliable domestic enterprise. So next, regarding the distribution strategy in the current policy environment, partnering strategy and channel strategy are recommended here. And today, I want to emphasize the last strategy, registration strategy. I wanted to show that China's regulatory policies are becoming increasingly open and flexible, and the spatial access procedures are available in some areas, allowing many innovative products to be piloted first. See the opportunities and understand the China's compliance pathway. We hope everyone can make a major play in the Chinese market. In closing, if you require support with clinical trials and registrations, TigerMed Jitong has over 20 years of specialized experience in the IVD sector. We stand ready to provide you with professional services at any time. That's all my sharing today. I truly appreciate you being here. Hope you got some useful insights. Thanks again.